CMT patient representative, dear partners, I am very happy to welcome all of you today for this first European CMT Specialist Conference. Thank you. This conference, which started with a dream. Yes, I had a dream. More precisely, two dreams. As a CMT sufferer myself, and a volunteer for about 30 years within the CMT France Association, I have had the privilege of participating in many international medical scientific meetings and making friends with colleagues from the other association. Together we made my first dream a reality, creating an European Federation of our association to represent the 300,000 Europeans with CMT to pharmaceutical companies, health professionals, and national health authorities. This decision was made in 2016 during the PNS meeting in Venice. In 2018, 2 years later, the ECMTF was officially established in Brussels with the support of the King of the Belgians. The founding members were Spierzichten Vlaanderen from Belgium, CMT France from France, ECMT Rete and Progetto Mito Fusina Due from Italy, Spierzichten Netherlands from the Netherlands, and CMT UK from the United Kingdom. Since its creation, our federation has conducted several annual European campaigns to raise awareness of CMT among individuals and health professionals, investing over 600,000 euros thanks to the support of the Pernice laboratory. Now, only 5 years later after our creation, we have grown from 5 to 21 members, including all existing European associations, as well as CMT China, CMT Israel, CMT-A, USA, CMT Research Foundation, USA, and the Hereditary Neuropathy Foundation, USA. Today, our entity stands as the only federation of CMT patient association in the world. So we are incredibly proud of this achievement, which is only the beginning, as I had this second dream to organize an European conference of CMT specialists. Why not? We wanted to share our knowledge of the disease and its consequences, our communication networks with our members, our data resources, and our potential to mobilize patients for studies and trials. This dream has become a reality thanks to the unwavering support of my colleagues, your trust, and the spontaneous, even enthusiastic welcome you have given to our invitation. I would like to express my gratitude to our organizing agency, ComSanté, for their technical, patient, and friendly assistance. I also want to acknowledge the tremendous investment of Marina, our federation's super secretary, and the indispensable support of our institutional and industrial partners, including the European Joint Programme on Rare Disease, Farnext, Advanced Pharma, AFM Teleton, DGM in Germany, Applied Therapeutics, Augustin Therapeutics, and Inflectis Bioscience. But above all, this conference could not have been held without one person who has done an enormous amount of work to elaborate the program of this conference, to contact the speakers, to manage their participation, and even to collect funds. I have named our friend Ingolf Pernice, With our second vice president and president himself of the very young German CMT Association. He will further discuss the goals and program of these days. Thanks to his tremendous commitment, my second dream is coming true. You are here with us, with our delegates, with our partners. I'm very grateful to him and to all of you. For you, we have gathered together the delegates of our association who are offering you their day-to-day knowledge of our pathology, and you, esteemed specialists, bring us your invaluable knowledge, experience, and determination to overcome the burden of our disease. So let's share our knowledge. We have created the tool, and now it is up to you to make use of it. We have demonstrated that cooperation is possible despite our geographical, cultural, and linguistic differences. It's your turn. Remember, as our motto says, together we are stronger. Dear Ingolf, the floor is yours.
Mr. President, Madame la Ministre, bienvenue, merci de venir et donner l'honneur à nous de venir parler à nous. Merci beaucoup. Dear CMT specialists, this is the first time I cannot speak in standing, but in sitting only because of CMT. Thousands of people affected by CMT do not know what is wrong with them. Thousands of people having got their diagnosis are desperate for there's no cure yet. Thousands of CMT patients stopped visiting their doctors because this despair. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming and spending a part of your lifetime to this special event and to this issue, CMT. Daniel and I thought it is time now to rethinking the way research is done in CMT, at least in Europe. But we don't have the knowledge you have. This is why we call upon you, the European CMT specialists, and some friends, some specialists from the United States. Thank you so much for coming. The main goal of this gathering is to find out together what are the best strategies to come to CMT therapies as quickly as possible. Together, as Daniel said rightly, together we are stronger. By the way, he used a very important word of Nelson Mandela, so let me add a word of Walter Hallstein. It comes to my mind because he is one of the German Europeans in the first years of Europe. He said, those who don't believe in miracles are not realists. And I'm one of these, because that you are here now is really a miracle. I did not believe it, but I hoped, of course, in it. So let's come back to work. This is not an ordinary congress of researchers, really not. We do not try to copy PNS for the Europeans. We would never achieve, no worry. But we can create, or the question is, can we create an added value by bringing together scientists, clinicians, and other health professionals with an interest in research on the one hand, and patients, industry, and political leaders on the other hand. Added value. As you see from the program, we split the conference in two parts. First one is substance. Where are we in research on CMT? What is new in CMT sciences? Second part is a strategy. What is missing? Why is it so difficult to make progress in CMT research? Funding? Data? Cooperation? Question mark. Having seen some of your publications and the lists of authors on the top of each, there is cooperation already. Yeah, true. I didn't know it before. But isn't it accidental and spontaneous? Not organized? Not systematic? Not institutionalized? My question. I have a dream. Now, as you have. 2 dreams we have together. I have a 3rd dream also. My first dream is cooperation. We have got money for this event from the EU, EGPRD, because it is a networking event. So please network. Yet, my dream goes one step beyond networking. Associate, organize and structure your cooperation. Create ECRA. You will see what I mean with this. I wonder if Klingen, Stefan will know what that means, is as presented by a poster in the Miami PNS Congress last year, can serve as an example, perhaps. Second dream, access to data. How many patients do you need for doing reasonable research on CMT? In Europe, the estimate is 300,000 CMT patients exist. Since artificial intelligence can be employed in genetics and diagnosis, easy access for researchers to their health data of the 300,000 would be a turning point in CMT research, I guess. This is my second dream. Make of health data European-wide a powerful basis for advanced research in CMT. Create ECPR. You will see what it means. The future European health data space. Did you hear about that? There is a proposal for EU regulation on that by the Commission. It was published recently. Could it be the framework for what could become the European CMT Patients Registry? So a big European data bank for data on CMT. Third dream, engagement. We are the patients. Wait and see is not an option if we hope for a cure. What can CMT specialists recommend to mobilize the patients, to give us a perspective of hope? What do you need in particular, scientists, to facilitate your work, to accelerate studies and easy trials for new drugs and methods? This is what I mean when I talk about my third dream, mobilizing CMT patients, make them partners, not objects of your work. Patients as partners, as we have from CMTA, is a key word, that we may learn from them. Cooperation at eye level of scientists, clinicians, therapists, industry, and patients in a common effort to get things done. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we invited you to this conference. We are overwhelmed by the positive response to this initiative. This is why I'd like to thank you already now, even before we come to work. Thank you, first of all, Daniel and Marina, for your great spontaneous, deep friendship and trust, and extraordinary spirit of cooperation, making this conference possible. Thanks to the European Union and EGPRD funding that we also take as a recognition that we are on the right way. Thanks also to our industrial partners, FarNext, Advanced Pharma, and others. Daniel already talked about this. Thank you so much. Finally, AFM Téléthon, la DGM et la VISAN, the institutional and France Téléthon is one of the most important for the support, without which it would have been impossible to invite you to Paris. Let us open our minds now, talk, know each other better, and network, and test unexpected ideas respectfully, recognizing that we are all different from different fields, but could put our forces together with the determination to create something new. together against CMT. Thank you very much. And we would now listen to the video message of our responsible commissioner in the EU Commission in Brussels, responsible for health. 5 minutes only, and then we continue. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to speak at this first European Charcot-Marie-Tooth Specialist Conference. Some 30 million people across Europe, the populations of Greece, Portugal and Sweden combined, are living with a rare condition. Patients living with rare conditions face many challenges. They may encounter uncertainties and delays at the diagnosis stage. They may lack access to treatment. Their quality of life usually suffers. The physicians treating them bear great responsibility. They are very often a patient's only hope for a better life. With knowledge and expertise so scarce, the potential for EU-wide cooperation, coordination and action couldn't be higher or more welcome. We are committed to supporting rare disease doctors and specialized healthcare providers with concrete actions. Our 24 European reference networks for rare diseases ensure that all rare disease patients, in particular children, have access to the best knowledge, diagnosis and treatment. European funding is central to these networks. This year, we offer 77 million in grants to help the 24 networks over the next 4 years. This includes the European Reference Network on Neuromuscular Diseases, which covers Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. The ERNs will continue bringing together expert panels to agree on diagnosis through a cross-border patient management tool. They will expand the use of registries as a source of data for relevant future research. And they will hold training courses on the rare diseases they cover. The upcoming joint action with member states to integrate the networks into national healthcare systems is an important opportunity. And following its launch in the autumn, it will improve national referral systems for rare diseases. Outside the networks, we are further developing the European platform on rare disease registration and pooling data from hundreds of registries across Europe. We want to make it possible to search for and find the maximum amount of data on rare diseases. We are also preparing a new partnership on rare diseases under the Horizon Europe program, starting next year, to promote and support financially research and innovation. Our objective is to deliver specific health benefits to people living with rare diseases and improve their quality of life. Our commitment, of course, is not new. We have EU legislation on medicines for rare diseases since 2000, which has stimulated research and development for rare disease medicines. More than 200 orphan medicines have been authorized for rare disease patients. We have also designated around 2,000 products under development as orphan medicinal products. However, access to authorized orphan medicines differs across member states. These medicines are rare in themselves. 95% of rare diseases still have no treatment. So this is the issue we need to tackle first. And this is where our pharmaceutical reform comes in, to create a favorable regulatory framework for medicines for rare diseases and unmet medical needs, with clear criteria of what counts as an unmet medical need, with targeted incentives to address unmet medical needs, and with strong and early regulatory support from EMA for medicines development. In addition, the European health data space will be a game changer for patients across Europe, but in particular for those living with a rare disease. Lack of data and knowledge is consistently one of the main obstacles on these very specific patient journeys. Our health data space can be a treasure trove for the scientists and medicine developers working on the latest innovations in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, deepening our knowledge of rare diseases is a collective effort. This inaugural conference, bringing all active parties together, is a huge contribution to that effort. In this European Health Union we are building, we have a duty to support innovation on rare diseases. Innovation which reaches patients without geographical distinction. And our efforts will continue to support patients with rare diseases and their families. Thank you.
Alexandre, c'est à toi. Alexandre Meja is the director of Eurodis and also one of the director of EFM Téléthon, one of our partners. Please.
So, dear friends, good afternoon. I have the huge responsibility to come after Stella Kyriakides. Not an easy task. As you see, I've got no notes. But I have no notes, but I have conviction. I am not affected by CMT, but I am affected by neuromuscular diseases, so I am a patient. I'm also a PhD in molecular and cellular biology, and I led a research lab for 8 years on neuromuscular diseases. So I'm this kind of bridges between two worlds, the one of patient and the one of researcher and clinicians. And that's really the thing I will try to share with you. These bridges make a difference. I see lots of faces I know, at least from the French collaboration, the collaboration between EFM and CMT France, but also the collaboration between patients and clinicians in France, where we got this network of excellence and clinical center in France dedicated to neuromuscular diseases. And as it was mentioned, this level of collaboration now is a reality at the European level. I have several hats, and one of them is to again, have the honor to be the current chair of the European Neuromuscular Center, but maybe some of you attended the workshop. It's a structure funded and created by patient organization to fund and organize workshop where clinicians, researcher, patient, pharmaceutical representative, sometimes regulatory agency representatives comes together to try to solve common issue. It was created in 1992 and looking at the different workshop which have been organized for CMT. I had the pleasure to see that the NMC actually accompanied the evolution of CMT. In the 1990s, the workshop were dedicated to new genes identification and diagnosis. In 2000, we were starting to talk about new registries, new outcome measures. And now we start receiving application for clinical trial readiness for CMT. So fortunately, the field has been moving. And I'm very proud to see that at the European level, again, patients and clinicians and researchers coming together were able to follow this evolution. As it was mentioned, we also had the chance to have here in the room representative of the European Reference Network. Incredible clinical network at the European level, which are able to share knowledge, to work on common diagnosis, to work on practice, and hopefully to be also the place where the future clinical trial will take place. As it was indicated, we have the chance to be together today thanks to the funding of the European Joint Program for Rare Disease, where EFM is also a partner. And so again, we see that it's important to work together between CMT experts, to work together between neuromuscular disease experts, but also we can realize that we have common share and common goals at the European level and at the world level for all rare diseases. So, what the first title indicated, I'm also proud to be a member of Aroundis, where we can push this kind of policy and new regulation, which were described by Stella Kyriakides. You have to understand that if these regulations happen, it's because they have the pressure. I can say it, she's not here. They have the pressure of the research community, where again, if we don't have a common voice between researchers, clinicians, patient organization, and even pharmaceutical industry representative, we are not able to change this legislation and make sure that it's efficient for this particular case of rare diseases. So, I will not go further. As I said, I'm myself a bridge between two worlds. I'm a bridge between different structure, international structure. I'm extremely proud to see you today all together, trying to, again, break the last piece of walls and start building bridges. Be convinced that that's the way things will change. And I'm sure that it's the first European meeting, but not the last. Have a very great meeting.
Prenez votre temps.
Comme vous l'avez peut-être remarqué, on a des petits problèmes de mobilité. Merci Madame la Ministre d'avoir accepté notre invitation et de nous honorer de votre présence. Je n'en dirai pas plus parce que le temps nous est compté. Donc je vous laisse la parole. Merci beaucoup.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les élus de la Fédération européenne Charcot-Marie-Tooth, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants des associations des patients Charcot-Marie-Tooth, Mesdames et Messieurs, au nom du ministère de la Santé et de la Prévention, je suis ravie d'intervenir auprès de la quasi-totalité des associations des patients CMT à travers l'Europe, mais aussi à l'international, afin de stimuler et promouvoir la recherche coopérative interdisciplinaire dans l'intérêt de tous les patients concernés. Je salue votre volonté commune de créer, tous ensemble, des synergies afin de développer des thérapies efficaces dans la CMT, maladies rares et orphelines de traitement à ce jour. Je remercie la Fédération européenne Charcot-Marie-Tooth pour l'organisation de ce temps de présentation et d'échange et chacun des intervenants des différentes tables rondes qui ont accepté de partager leur point de vue, mais également leur expérience sur la prise en charge de la CMT. Un grand merci particulièrement aux patients et aux familles réunies aujourd'hui avec les professionnels de santé et les chercheurs et dont l'accompagnement est réellement précieux. Je pense aux familles, aux aidants, mais aussi aux associations qui œuvrent constamment et inlassablement pour les malades atteints de la maladie de Charcot-Marie-Tooth. Les maladies de type Charcot-Marie-Tooth, CMT, constituent un groupe hétérogène de neuropathies génétiques héréditaires. Il s'agit de la maladie neuromusculaire la plus fréquente. En France, elle toucherait 30 à 50 000 personnes, soit une personne pour 2500. Il existe un grand nombre de formes de maladies de Charcot-Marie-Tooth. La filière de santé maladies rares, Philnemus, a publié en février 2022 une liste précise et simple d'utilisation de tous les gènes impliqués dans la CMT. Ce travail unique a été conduit grâce à l'implication de toutes les parties engagées dans la réalisation des analyses génétiques de patients français atteints de neuropathie périphérique. C'est un outil essentiel pour améliorer l'efficacité du diagnostic génétique de la CMT. Actuellement, vous le savez, 127 gènes sont recensés. La filière de santé maladies rares Philnemus a porté aussi une pré-indication CMT pour le plan France Médecine Génomique 2025, accepté en 2022. Il a été mis en place des réunions de concertation pluridisciplinaires dédiées sur 3 sites coordinateurs à Paris, Bordeaux et Marseille en janvier 2023. Et des prélèvements sont régulièrement adressés aux plateformes génomiques. En septembre 2023, la filière mettra en place la base de données de neuropathie périphérique, dont la CMT. Bravo et merci à tous. Aussi, et bien qu'il existe une importante hétérogénéité, on retrouve un tableau clinique commun aux différents types de CMT, avec au premier plan un déficit moteur et sensitif progressif, et au second plan des déformations squelettiques. À ce tableau clinique typique peuvent s'ajouter des troubles associés, dont la gravité et la fréquence dépendent du type de CMT ou de l'âge du début de la maladie. Outre ces atteintes et les handicaps qui en découlent, les patients rapportent une grande fatigabilité et des douleurs chroniques invalidantes qui impactent leur qualité de vie et peuvent générer des troubles du sommeil ou encore un état dépressif. À ce jour, notre politique vise à assurer aux patients une prise en charge globale et pluridisciplinaire, idéalement dans un centre de référence ou de compétences maladies rares en lien avec le médecin traitant. L'objectif est bien que les patients conservent leur autonomie en favorisant notamment l'éducation thérapeutique et en les conseillant pour bien vivre avec leur maladie. Le traitement est donc pour l'heure symptomatique. Je salue les travaux de la commission recherche de la filière de santé maladies rares, FINLEMUS, qui permettent, avec la construction d'un consortium CMT constitué des médecins neurologues, spécialistes de médecine physique et de réadaptation, de biologistes, de chercheurs, de favoriser la recherche transversale. Plusieurs projets ont émergé et ont été publiés dans les revues à haut facteur d'impact. Les équipes françaises sont pionnières dans le domaine et nous soutenons également la coordination européenne des maladies neuromusculaires basée à Paris, à l'hôpital de la Pitié-Salpêtrière. Il est important aussi de signaler que le Centre de référence maladies rares de Marseille a coordonné depuis 2009 4 essais thérapeutiques internationaux. Et il nous faut aller plus avant pour soutenir l'ensemble des acteurs présents sur le parcours du patient atteint d'une des maladies de Charcot-Marie-Tooth. Le gouvernement français intervient en appui à la structuration de la prise en charge, mais c'est un point que nous devons toujours mieux considérer avec anticipation et d'assurer la meilleure réponse aux besoins des patients comme de leurs proches. Ce soutien institutionnel a fait de la France le premier pays européen à avoir élaboré et mis en œuvre un plan national portant sur les maladies rares. Les principaux enjeux de celui-ci visaient notamment à améliorer l'accès au diagnostic, aux soins et à une prise en charge de qualité, à développer l'information, à promouvoir la recherche dans ces domaines. Dès 2004, un premier dispositif de prise en charge du groupe des maladies CMT a été mis en place. En 2011, et avec le deuxième plan national, les 23 filières de santé maladies rares ont été créées afin de développer et de mutualiser les compétences des différents acteurs. La filière FINLEMUS neuromusculaire a quant à elle été mise en place en 2014. Aujourd'hui, l'heure est à l'évaluation du troisième plan national maladies rares sur la période 2018-2023. Les plans nationaux maladies rares successifs, puisque nous en sommes désormais à l'élaboration du quatrième, soutiennent l'effort spécifique porté sur ces pathologies rares, complexes et invalidantes. Le futur plan maladies rares est actuellement en cours de réflexion, avec une attention particulière au thème suivant. Le parcours de vie et de soins des territoires vers l'Europe. Il s'agit bien d'améliorer le lien entre la ville et l'hôpital, ainsi que la formation et l'information, et d'assurer une dissémination des politiques maladies rares au sein des pays de l'Union européenne. Le diagnostic, avec une réflexion portant sur un observatoire du diagnostic des maladies rares, en articulation avec le plan France Médecine Génomique. L'innovation et le traitement, avec le souci de renforcer l'analyse et de mieux collecter des données en vie réelle pour les accès précoces et compassionnels et accompagner l'accès au marché de l'innovation pour les maladies rares. Au-delà de cette actualité institutionnelle, l'objectif ambitieux de vos échanges est de partager les avancées réalisées au cours de ces dernières années et d'identifier ensemble les axes à approfondir et les enjeux majeurs et objectifs à poursuivre sur les prochaines années. Ces réflexions seront, j'en suis sûre, riches et constructives. Je vous souhaite une belle journée d'échange, de partage sur les projets à venir. Je suis certaine que, vous tous réunis, vous pourrez repousser les limites imposées par la maladie afin de diagnostiquer plus rapidement, traiter de façon plus efficace et ainsi améliorer la qualité de vie des personnes malades. Je vous remercie très sincèrement pour votre engagement. Vous pouvez compter sur notre mobilisation constante. Et messieurs, j'espère que notre mobilisation constante permettront qu'un jour vos rêves deviennent réalité. Et vous avez raison, ensemble on est plus fort.
Merci. Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre, pour ces paroles, ce réconfort et surtout votre compréhension de notre situation et de nos espoirs et de nos rêves, évidemment. Vous avez beaucoup mis en avant la filière Filnemus et nous avons donc son coordinateur national qui est ici, professeur Charcot-Marie-Tooth. Sorry for speaking in French few words. I just wanted to introduce our Professor Charcot-Marie-Tooth, who is the coordinator of Filnemus. You heard from the French ministry. You heard with Filnemus. So, Sharam, you told me that you need 16 minutes, so I give you 8 minutes. It's okay. So.
No more. I have nothing to add. Everything is said. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, everything has been said. Madame la Ministre Déléguée, dear all, thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation. I am very happy to be here for the first meeting of European CMT Federation. Thank you, Ingolf. Also, you have said everything that I wanted to say. And Daniel, thank you. Thank you for your long-standing commitment to fight against this disease. You are here today despite you are suffering. And know what I'm saying. This event is highly innovative. The program represents what I wanted to talk. So thank you again. I have to manage two things at the same time. So you have heard about that. No more need to talk about CMT. I am losing one. Let me focus on one the key question, at least in my opinion, that we need to address. What actions and study would help to improve the evaluation of CMT in trial designs? Sorry. At present, we don't have a cure. At present, we don't have a cure, but we have treatment to manage some symptoms and improve the quality of life. To assess the efficacy of this treatment, it's vital to track progression of the disease. This is where biomarkers and disease progression measures become important, essential. Several therapies, as it has been said, have been tried in the past. For the CMT, we have tried the first ascorbic acid in France. After that, we moved to other trials with PXT 3003, second phase, and phase 3. First phase 3, as you know, it showed that there is some efficacy of improvement of primary outcome measures. You know that what is important, what is interesting is that Pernice released 1 month ago the results of open label extension which confirm this sustained benefit of this molecule after 6 years of total trial time. So So now it brings me to talk you about a major unmet need in CMT, which is identification of biomarkers. Characteristic of good biomarkers include accessibility, meaning it should be easy and preferably non-invasive to measure. A good biomarker should be also have high sensitivity and probably specificity. This that is, it should correctly identify those with and without the disease, respectively. We have several tools for, at our disposal for measuring disease progression. These include many scales, several clinical scales. We have proposed some electrophysiological parameters, motor units index, and the best is probably quantified MRI. Several works from London group showed that this is a sensitive tool to detect the change, and our results also in Marseille confirmed this interesting finding. So for the moment, this is the best tools that we have. However, these tools have limitations. They can be sensitive to inter-individual variability, lack of specificity, require large-scale validation, and not always accessible, as this is the case for MRI. Furthermore, considering the variability of CMT subtype, it's challenging to develop universally applicable measurement tools. So let me share with you the major challenges in researching CMT. Firstly, we have, again, genetic heterogeneity with over 120 non-gene associated with CMT. The genetic landscape of this disease is vast and diverse. This diversity complicates the study of the disease, the development of universal treatments, and the conduction of large-scale clinical trials. The second challenge is the complex pathophysiology of CMT. The biological mechanisms underlying CMT are not entirely understood. Our next challenge is the small patient population in subgroup of CMTs because of the rarity of the disease. It makes it difficult to recruit a substantial number of patients for clinical trials, slowing down the pace of research. The fourth challenge is limited funding, like many other rare diseases, center research often suffer from a lack of funding. The last thing is diagnostic wandering, delay for diagnosis. Patients arrive too late to the centers and to participate in research for several of them. But we have also we have also the opportunity. These challenges can open up new avenues for exploration. There are several exciting opportunities with CMT research that they are highlighted here. The first opportunity lies in genetic testing. Advances in technologies such as next-generation sequencing are enabling us to identify more genes associated with CMT and to diagnose the condition with greater accuracy. Next, we have the potential for targeted therapies, identifying specific genetic mutations that cause CMT, opens the door to developing therapies that target these mutations. We also have individual support of, and this is very, very important, the individual support of patient advocacy group organization such as the this association, European CMT Federation or CMTA, can contribute significantly to reach through funding raising awareness, and assisting us with the recruitment of clinical trials. Then there are collaborative research initiatives by bringing together researchers, clinicians, and patient advocacy groups from around the world. We can share resource, knowledge, and data. This collaborative approach can greatly accelerate the pace of research. The area of drug repurposing, as I showed you for Pernice or Amflectis, I hope for the future, also provides substantial opportunity by identifying existing drugs that could be used to treat CMT. We can significantly reduce the time and cost associated with traditional drug development. Lastly, we are benefiting from advanced research tools such as animal models, induced pluripotent stem, and as Vincent Timmerman published recently, organoid, for example. Despite the challenges, these opportunities give the hope for the future and promise of improved diagnosis, treatment, and possibility of cure for patients. But no work. So no. To fully exploit this opportunity, it is crucial to foster a global collaborative approach. This brings us to the significance of cross-border collaboration and its impact on CMT research. First and foremost, cross-border collaboration fosters knowledge sharing and allows pooling resources, expanding patient cohort clinical trials, accelerating scientific discovery, and improving patient care. And this bring us to the role of European Reference Network on neuromuscular diseases, and how their center can contribute to CMT research and patients. Firstly, ERN can facilitate the collaborative research by promoting participating in cross-border research, collaborating. ERN center would be enable larger and more powerful studies on CMT that can lead to breakthroughs finding. Secondly, it can play a significant role in knowledge sharing. It serves as a hub for expertise, sharing the latest research findings, guidelines, and best practice with healthcare providers across Europe. ERN centers can also actively be involved in clinical trials, and when it comes to patient care, ERN NMD provides a specialist expert in the domain, multidisciplinary care and multidisciplinary care for CMT. This ensures patients have access to the latest treatment and most comprehensive supportive care. So let me conclude with this slide given to me by Davide, which summarize what I'm saying together against CMT with Patients Association through within European Reference Centers. We can do many things as everybody explained you, and in the middle, patients and all of us around him. This is ORAIN-MD neuropathy working group put in place by David. Thank you very much for your attention.
Now, after the European point of view, we have the American point of view, thanks to the best specialist of CMT in America, Professor Stefan Zuckner, who is also the chief of the CMT department of the PNS, as far as I remember. Okay, so he's a specialist. Please.
I give it back to Europe. So first of all, Ingolf, Danielle, thank you very much and congratulations for what you have achieved. We had discussions and I know what it took for you two especially to make this happen. And so I hope you have more dreams because your dreams are great. I think you will give this CMT Federation will give CMT in Europe a big boost, more energy, more ideas. And especially I want to thank the patients who came here. I met some of you out in the lobby, also the patient organizations. And frankly, the words 5 minutes I got, I will address really to the patients more so than to my colleagues. So I'm a geneticist and I trained as a neurologist in Germany and in Europe, and I'm working in the University of Miami in Florida, United States. So I have seen both, it's okay. So I've seen both worlds, both continents. And I've been working on CMT for over 25 years now. So first of all, I can assure you there's a lot of collaboration between, as you know already, between the United States and scientists, physicians in Europe. And CMT, you know, the efforts under the Peripheral Nerve Society have already mentioned. We have a sort of a special interest group, the CMT and Related Disorders Special Interest Group. That is all relatively new and is still developing, but this is a great forum for professionals interested in CMT, physicians, scientists, to interact. And we meet in person once a year and many times more over the year. So that is happening. Now, as a geneticist, I want to point out a very simple fact. CMT refers to an inherited disease. These are the inherited forms of peripheral neuropathies. Not all neuropathies are inherited. But that really means, that implies that there is a precise molecular cause that we should be able to find for every CMT patient eventually, right? So that is the basic premise of what CMT is. And I want to point out to patients especially, that is not true for most of medicine. Most of medicine we treat symptoms, sometimes we can cure, but we don't really know for most diseases why we have them. In CMT eventually we will have this, that is the goal. Because genetics is a bit like mathematics. It's you know, 1 and 1 is 2. So that is a positive outlook, I would say. Now still, CMT today is not treatable. There's no real therapies available. Many have tried to find more general treatments. So far we don't have them. It looks today that we might have to really treat every subtype specifically. We also call them targeting the gene, the underlying gene, which means that many treatments have to be developed. But again, since it's linked to the genetic diagnosis, there is good hope. But this also means we need to make these diagnoses for the 40% of patients who don't get them today. So no CMT gene known, no therapy. That's kind of the simple math we have here. This sound may be a little bit pessimistic for many of you who don't have a diagnosis today, but look at it like this. For 20,000 years in human history, nobody pretty much cared about neuropathies, as far as I remember. About 150 years ago, because of two physicians from this country, we now have a term, CMT, that is Professor Charcot and Marie. They defined what CMT actually is. So now we care, medicine cares, we have something to, that we name, that we can diagnose. And only for the last 30 years, we started discovering the underlying genes. It turned out, unfortunately, it's not 1 or 2 or 3 genes that explains everything. It's now over 100 genes and counting. Every year, every single year, there are more genes being identified. So, and for the last 10 to 5 years maybe, we are really seriously starting to talk about therapies. And you saw a fairly short list of trials, and that list I think will expand over the coming years. And these new trials, they are very rational trials. They're not like, let's try this, let's try this. So there is great hope that they will actually, some of them will actually work. So what is happening in the United States? Ingolf asked me. So maybe the most important thing that happened in the United States is about 15 years ago, we started a consortium, the Inherited Neuropathy Consortium, or INC, which was started by Mike Shai and others. And from the get-go, it involved European sites, especially in Milan, Davide there, and Mary in London. But in the beginning, and still, it's somewhat dominated by the United States sites. But I want to tell you what this allowed us to come together and have an organized consortium as sort of professional physicians, scientists working on CMT. It allowed us to convince funding agencies and other funders, like patient organizations, to convince them that we say, look, we organized, we have a goal, we have a mission. And it allowed us to receive that funding. And the INC has raised roughly $20 million in the last 15 years for CMT research. We have spent it all, which is good. And there were many satellite funding opportunities during this time frame. So what can you do with this kind of funding? And again, I'm talking to patients, patient organizations. Number one, you can create standardized clinical assessments. It's a terrible technical term. What it really means is physicians come together and agree how should we examine a patient. How should we look at certain symptoms? How do we measure them? Do we agree, is this a 1 or is this a 3? And so that allows us then to compare different patients over time. And so this standardization is very important. Next thing is data collection. Ingolf mentioned it. First of all, we want to collect health data, basically, clinical data, health data, and also have them accessible to physicians and scientists working in this field. Because when you have these data, especially over 15 years, you can do something what we call natural history studies. That is nothing else than basically looking at how does a CMT patient develop over time. Is it very quickly progressing? Is it slow? And so on and so forth. So these natural history studies are very important. They're very lengthy. That makes them also very expensive. but they are absolutely crucial to plan good trials for future therapies. So, another thing for an inherited disorder is we need to collect genetic data. So we have a genetic database where most of our data is there, and it's open to all the consortium members. And that really has allowed us to find many more CMT genes, make many more diagnoses. Remember, you need a diagnosis to develop a therapy. So that's a key element. For CMT1, about 90% of patients get a diagnosis, a genetic diagnosis today. For CMT2, it's less than 50% of patients. So there's a long way to go. And especially CMT that starts later in life, or patients that don't have a family history, so there's no other family member, those hardly receive diagnosis. Those are the hardest to work out. So despite this, there have been major improvements in the last few years. And I want to just mention we found the most common gene, recessive gene for CMT called SORD. And we found the most important sensory neuropathy in a way called Arm syndrome. And another thing that all this funding allowed us under the INC is education. For a rare disease, it's very important that we keep an eye on raising the next generation of physicians, of scientists. There's immense competition to work on Alzheimer's, to work on ALS, to work on cancer. So we need to keep educating and attracting younger people to work in this field. That's key. And the funding has allowed to do this. So last not least, we actually have achieved a dream in the INC, I would say, in the last 2 or 3 years only. In 2020, we discovered the most important recessive gene called sorbitol dehydrogenase, or SORD. And when we found it, astonishingly, it was pretty clear what could be a good therapeutic strategy by using a drug that was already there in a way, or a family of drugs that we could try out. And we found a pharma partner, Applied Therapeutics, who's also a sponsor of this conference. And Applied Therapeutics was working in this field already with this drug. And they very quickly moved on this. And within a year, they had the drug in a handful of patients to see if it works in principle. And now, only 2 years later, a multi-center trial in the United States, in Europe, is fully subscribed. And these patients will be followed for the next 2 years. And there is actually quite an optimism around that this might work, and this would be the very first drug for CMT, and not for a very rare form, but for the most common recessive form. Okay, so that's it. I'm sure we will have a great conference and great interactions and discussions, and I'm looking forward to talk to many of you. Thank you.